down to business.
When he drinks, he thinks.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the #1 liquid-fueled, liquid-lubricated show on the interwebs. This is the Whiskey Musings Broadcast, and I am your host, Rick. Now, I kind of chuckled at the beginning because of the fact that I noticed a couple of things. First of all, I'm just going to let you know the people who, or the person who takes care of the chat, like the chat pop-up chat that comes up here whenever I pull them up. You know, I got to make sure I'm pointing in the right direction here. They added a couple features. I saw that and I wanted to try it. So if it looks a little different when it comes up here, that's why. Second thing, I was laughing because of the fact that Buddy Weiser over on Rumble came up with a interesting name for what I think might be for my P1s. I'm not entirely sure. For those of you who aren't in the business, and Dan Bongino actually mentioned this, and I've heard it said before in the past, but the P1s are your primary, your first listeners, the ones that are like the die-hard fans that listen every single time that you stream or that you put up a recording or whatever. And so a lot of people who do this for a regular living, they have names for their P1s. And Buddy just kicked it off, I think, over on Rumble. He came up with the Whiskey Warrior. He says, I'm a Whiskey Warrior. I think I like that. I think I'm going to start calling my P1s Whiskey Warriors. What do you guys think? Well, let me know. Let me know in the chat. All right, I'm in the pool hall tonight. For those of you that are listening on the audio portion of the program, I encourage you to come over to Rumble in particular and sign up for an account. And then, of course, you know, also make sure you subscribe to the broadcast to make sure that you catch every single time that I either go live or post a new video. Okay, so yes, April gin is allowed. Just saying. Okay, you don't have to necessarily drink whiskey. I think the whiskey name is referring to me, but that's okay. Whatever. Anyway, all right. So I got a couple of things going on tonight. We had a couple developments with some things that happened over the course of the last couple of days. I kind of want to toss this in there, or I want to show you a couple of articles, and then I've got a very disturbing trend that seems to be happening with all of our technology and our devices, and I just want to bring that up. I did an episode once on how the privacy is privacy itself. For the most part, if you believe that you have a private life and yet you use social media, that privacy, I'm telling you, is dead. You can go back and take a look at that episode. I think it's called The Privacy Fallacy. But also, I have an elusive pet of the week this week. And by elusive, I basically mean that it's elusive. Oh, hang on just a second. I'm getting a urgent message here. Oh, my wife just freaked out about how much it's costing to fill up my truck, which is I'll say a full size, but it's a half ton Toyota Tundra. But anyway, all right. Before we get into the program, let me go ahead and do this. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 with nonprofit with one mission: to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, IOTC, that's India Oscar Tango Charlie, Whiskey Musings, all lowercase, all one word, .online to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course materials and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.whiskeymusings.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.whiskeymusings.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution, buddy tested, buddy approved. Look at the quality of this. This is great, great material. The pages are water resistant, and look at that binding. They also comes with a 100-year guaranteed against materials and workmanship. You can send it in and get it taken care of, and yeah, it's great. And if you have one of these, or if you have a Constitution available, I've got a tiny bit of an assignment for you a little bit later in the program to go and take a look and see if you can prove me wrong. But anyway, if you want to purchase just that Constitution book to support the show, go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online. That's constitution.whiskeymusings.online. Go check the Institute on the Constitution out today. And I thank them for allowing me to be an affiliate. There's an awesome resource. I love them. They're great. I push them all the time. Well, I don't say all the time, but I push them quite a bit here on the program because I really do believe that we need to get our people to understand our Constitution. All right. So, earlier, last night, I guess, so there seems to be this trend in our country today, and it has a lot to do with targeting people for police response. It's known as swatting. And essentially what happens is somebody calls in, they call in with a really, really bad really bad report, like let's say somebody's getting murdered right now, there's screams, etc. It causes the police to go ahead and do a major rollout, and sometimes what they can do is they can get these special weapons and tactics units, the SWAT teams, to be able to roll out as well. It all depends on what the report actually is as to how many police officers will show up. Now, the sad part about this is the fact that they actually have to show up. Okay. So because of the fact that they have to show up, they can't just ignore these kinds of calls. And so what we end up with things like what happened to Marjorie Taylor Greene down in Georgia, MTG. Before I show you the article, though, I just realized I did not tell you what I was drinking tonight. And tonight's selection is the same as Saturday. It is the Four Roses single barrel bourbon whiskey. This is really, really good, actually. I've enjoyed it so far. And yeah, you can see it's not, I haven't really drank a lot of it yet, but I have enjoyed it a little bit for the time being. It's got a great flavor. And so far I've had it just over the rocks because that's kind of how they suggest that you drink it. And so here we go. It's good stuff, good stuff. Granted, it's hotter than usual here in the studio. We're supposed to get a lower temperature tomorrow, but tonight it's kind of hot, and so the ice is melting really fast in the glass, which kind of sucks, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm good to go with that. But I enjoy that. I have a couple other recommendations from my local guy that sells stuff, and so I'm going to be picking those up when I am able. and you might see some new ones on the show. Couple new bourbons in particular on the show about this. All right, so back to what I was talking about. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, here's the article from the National Post. It's kind of interesting how they chose this photo, to be honest. Anyway, so apparently she was swatted in her home shortly after 1 a.m. after a fake shooting call. Now, this little nugget of information didn't come out until a little bit later, like right before I came on the program, because I actually had a different version of this article ready to go for tonight. But turns out that apparently there was a pro-trans extremist who is the suspect in this case. And why do they say that? Well, first of all, let me just tell you, MTG put it out on Twitter at first, and a couple other of her social media outlets with regards to being swatted. She said there will be details forthcoming, but apparently at her Rome, Georgia home at 1 a.m. Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, so that was this morning, and apparently the police officers responded to a 911 call, which led them to initially believe a man who had been shot multiple times in the bathtub at the Greene home. The caller also stated that there was a woman inside the home and possibly children with her. When officers responded, Greene assured the officers there was no issue at the home. Now, here's a quote from from the report itself. It said, "After we cleared the call and went back in service, Rome Floyd 911 received a call from the suspect claiming responsibility for the incident and explaining his or her motives," the report stated. It was a computer-generated voice, which I've been able to do here, and they explained that they were upset about Mrs. Greene's stance on transgender youth's rights and stated that they were trying to swat her. Now, I'm not... Okay, first of all, I pointed out that I can do the computer-generated voice. I'm not pointing out that I swatted MTG, okay? I did not do that. I don't do that crap. That's just horrible. In fact, I can't even believe that these people would... I mean, seriously, folks, come on. You're going to go and swat somebody just because you disagree with their principles, their values, the things that they say. I mean, it's completely stupid. Now, Timcast IRL was actually swatted while he was on the air one time, and so that was extremely interesting. I don't know if anybody caught that. I'm not really. I don't necessarily follow him, but it's entirely stupid. And I'm sorry, but I think the way out of this is to launch investigations, because turning in a false report in most jurisdictions is actually a crime. So that's number one. Secondly, the fact of the matter is that it costs a ton of money to send these people out, and, to get them to roll, to get them to get all set up, all of the equipment and gear that goes, especially if it's a full-end SWAT team. They are highly trained, highly specialized people. And so I personally think that they should do just like what would happen with a car accident or something along those lines. I don't know if you've ever been in a car accident, but if your insurance company doesn't cover the cost of like the paramedics showing up and the transport to the hospital, even if it only gives it partial, they pass you a bill for that. The police will also bill you if you have a security alarm in your place of business and they get called out and there's nothing there. I had that happen once. I was working retail and we had shatterproof glass on the front of the building, but the alarm system had a motion sensor that was pointed toward the glass. And so this guy, you could see him on the video, this guy comes running up with this big monstrous rock. I mean, it probably took him a little while to pick the damn thing up, but he goes and he runs up and he slams it against the window, causing the entire window to shake, and that set off the alarm. Well, we ended up, when the cops came, I mean, granted, however long it took them to get there, but when the cops came and they walked around the building, they checked out to make sure there was nothing, nothing untoward going on. And they took a look in the space, and then next thing you know, they're writing a ticket, and they tape it to the window. And so the business had to pay for that police officer to actually roll. Now, I have problems with that because I think basic services like that are supposed to be paid for by your taxes. So they should not be charging people for that. However, they counted it as a fake call. And so because of that, they went ahead and, ticketed the business. Now, the funny thing about all of this, of course, is that, first of all, they're going to have to find these people, whoever these people are. And to be completely honest with you, the idiots called back. So and explained to them what they were, why they took credit for it, etc. But they should try and track them down. And in my opinion, they should hand them a bill for literally everything, what it costs to have that person roll. They should add in some money for MTG for her pain and suffering, being woken up at 1 o'clock in the morning, and being freaked out by these idiots, or by the police officers coming in, and that was being caused by the idiots who swatted them, et cetera, et cetera. So, I personally believe that all of that should get paid for by the fake people, the fake reporters or reports, whoever filed that. Boy, that was really awkward. But anyway, I think they should, be forced to pay for all of that. And I believe that if more people were actually found, tracked down, found, and forced to pay these things, then this stuff would probably stop fairly quickly. So anyway, don't forget their kids either. I mean, here you go. Don't forget their kids. Yeah. So there should be, actually that brings up a good point, because when I was over in Germany for exercises while I was in the service in 91, the thing was that if you destroyed or hurt something, for an example, if you let's say ran over a chicken, the German government would charge the United States Army for that chicken plus 10 generations of what that chicken would produce. So in other words, if the cost of the chicken, let's say, was $10, and then that chicken could produce in a year, in the matter of a year, let's say 100 eggs, well, you would be charged that $10 plus the 100 eggs, plus the next year there would be 1,000 eggs, plus the next year would be, 10,000 eggs or 100,000 eggs, whatever it was. And it would expand all the way down for 10 generations. I mean, it was expensive if you ran over something or hurt something on a farm or something along those lines. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, to me, that would be perfect. I mean, we could go and just say, hey, let's just do this for 10 generations or whatever. So anyway. All right. So that's the first thing for the week. Now, one thing that I do want to bring up, or what I do want to point out, and I titled the episode this, is because I really think, I really wish that I could go to like the White House, knock on the front door, and start screaming inside, is anybody in there listening? Is anybody in there really, really listening? Because they seem to have this incredible idea that they can just spend money willy-nilly for anything. And, to be completely honest, I just don't understand. So let me explain what I mean. I'm totally messed up here, but let me explain this, okay? Government does not produce anything that it can't pass anything on to you that it hasn't taken from somebody else. Flat out, okay? The government does not produce a single thing. The government gets all of its money. All of the money that you see being spent on the Army, the Navy, the politicians, all of their staff, everybody else, okay? All of that, all the buildings, all the maintenance on the buildings, everything, all right? They get it purely from taxes. That's it. They don't produce a single thing of value that they sell to the public like a normal business would in order to gain their money. They have to take it from the American people. And so anytime you hear about welfare programs, anytime you hear about, student loan debt forgiveness, handing money off to Ukraine, handing money off to any number of foreign entities, all of that is coming from the pool that they pull from taxes. And it gets even worse than that, okay? Because what they are doing is what's called deficit spending. And by deficit spending, that basically means that you are paying on an IOU, or you're sending money out on an IOU piece of paper that eventually will get caught up and paid by the taxes. So if we all of a sudden, let's say for an example, we all of a sudden had an extremely bad year, a whole bunch of businesses went out of business, people, went out of work or died, God forbid, just the tax season was extremely low. Well, what would happen is that all of those IOUs would automatically get extended. And that's exactly what's happening here. Our government right now is running a very large deficit, the largest in history. And granted, some of that, I will admit, came from the Trump administration. But at the same time, though, it has increased in almost an exponential fashion under the Biden administration because of all the things that the Biden administration is spending this on. So this whole idea that government has money, because there are people out there, and I'm not talking about my P1s, I'm not talking about the people who come and listen to this program, but there is a bunch of people out there, and if I have a liberal or two that's listening to the broadcast, open your ears and pay attention here. Open your ears and pay attention, because of the fact that the government does not produce anything of value. It does not automatically have the capability technically to pay things off. And the reason why I say technically is because what happens is the government prints money. Whenever they need more cash or they need more money, they just print it. And a lot of people think, oh, well, just because it's printed, that means that they have more money. They don't. What they've done is they've devalued every single individual dollar and made it worth less than what it was the previous year. Now, we went away from what's called the gold standard a long, long time ago. Okay? A long time ago. And that gold standard was essentially this. If you noticed some of the older notes prior to us leaving the gold standard, the older notes would say something like, the bearer of this certificate is able to withdraw the equivalent in value of either gold or silver, because they used to have silver certificates and they had gold certificates. So essentially, before we moved away from that whole standard of having precious metals, that dollar was supposed, for every dollar that we had in circulation, we had to have the same equivalent worth in precious metals, whether it was gold or silver. Ideally, with the gold standard, it had to be gold. Okay. Now, that being said, and I'm just going to go ahead and pop this up because I know I don't get over there very much. Hi. Hello. All right. So the gold standard was something that we moved away from. We also decided in Congress, and this is where your Constitution comes into play, okay? I want you to look this up. If you have this available, or if you have a copy of the Constitution available, I want you to look this up, please. Take a look, knowing that the Article 1 in the Constitution outlines the responsibilities of Congress. Article 2 defines the responsibilities of the executive. And Article 3 defines the responsibilities of the judiciary. What I want you to do, and this is what I need you to do during this time frame, if you have it available, is start reading through Article 1 really quick. Just skim it. You don't need to read the whole thing. But take a look at which one between Congress, the executive branch, meaning the president, and the judiciary, which one of those three branches of government are responsible for money? That's what I'm asking you. And I know some of you are going to know it right off the top of your head. I get that. That's fine. But take a look and just read through it really quick. It's not gonna be that hard to find. Trust me. I wouldn't give you this assignment if I felt like it was going to be hard to find, okay? But take a minute and take a look at that. And the reason why I say that is because of the fact that today Biden delivered on one of his, quote, promises when he popped this up. So let me just show you this. So this came out in the Post-Millennial, and of course everybody has been talking about this. Biden announces plans for student debt relief. Now, here's the thing. Biden himself has to account for the money that's been given to him. And I'm seeing some answers here in the chat. So we have things like the House of Representatives, which is one part of the appropriation. We have the none. We have a pop here, which this one's longer. The government gets money only three ways. one, taxes; two, printing, and actually borrowing it from the Federal Reserve. And then the last is, of course, taking it from others. So that's how they get their money. You're right, Jarhead. Okay. But Congress, okay. And then we have Congress controls the spending. All right. So everybody's pretty much hitting on the answer here. The answer is the president does not have the capability to basically absolve people of their debt to the federal government. Okay. The executive does not control the money. The executive puts forth a budget to the Congress, and both houses have to approve that budget, which is part of the reason why we have all of these bills going through, why he couldn't just enact the Build Back Better plan, as an example, or his infrastructure plan, or any of the plans like this latest one that he just, the Inflation Reduction Act. None of that was generated by the president. That was all generated by Congress, because of the fact that Congress, and we could go through all the nitpicky details later, but the key here is that Congress is the one that holds the purse strings. Congress is the one that handles all the money. Congress is the one that is supposed to, by the Constitution, lay the taxes on the people. So the IRS isn't a part of the Constitution. It was a statute that was written in order to essentially absolve the Congress of their responsibility, their fiduciary responsibility to collect taxes and all of that. But anyway, I digress for a second. The point is that Congress himself, or Congress themselves, are the ones that are in control of all this. Okay, Biden can't do this. So I fully expect that this is going to be challenged in court. Because here's the other thing that happens. According to him, he's just going to erase 10,000 or 20,000, depending upon if you did a federal Pell Grant versus a regular federal, like an FSA loan or something like that. Biden just says he's going to erase that for anybody who is making any money below 125,000. All right. Well, here's the thing, that the student loan deal could end up costing $900 billion and favor top earners. This came from Fox Business. And this is a majority, a study that was done by Penn Wharton. And a majority of the student loan debt forgiven would boost the top earners. It would go after the top earners. And let me show you just down here. So the findings from the Penn Wharton budget model, a nonpartisan group at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School, comes out and says, it comes out as President Biden announces that he will cancel $10,000 of federal student loan debt for certain borrowers earning less than $125,000 and $20,000 for Pell Grant recipients. So then this is the important part. Oops. Penn Wharton estimated that a one-time forgiveness of $10,000 per borrower.
That's from bad to more
sorry about
confusing.
that. Would cost about $300 billion. So the one-time forgiveness of the $10,000 would cost us $300 billion. If the policy is limited to individuals with incomes less than $125,000 a year, the cost jumps to $330 billion if the program continues over the next decade, and would cost $344 billion if the White House scrapped some of the income limits. Should Biden opt to wipe out $50,000 per borrower, which he's kind of hinted at in the past, it would cost the federal government roughly $980 billion, according to the analysis. Okay, again, we're being snookered. We're having to pay these things. Just real quick, I want to give a shout out to Matt. Hello, evening. Thank you for joining. So, I'm sorry, but first of all, I mean, I would not be surprised that this gets challenged in court. Okay, straight up. And the funny thing is that Biden keeps talking about him being able to do this. Okay, but our good old buddy Nancy Pelosi, and I use the term buddy loosely, but Nancy Pelosi warned last year that Biden lacks the authority for a student debt handout. And if you think I'm lying, here, listen to her own words. Now, the quality of the video is horrible, but just listen to her own words. I'm only going to run about 10 seconds of this because that's all you need to know. But hold on. Listen to this.
People think that the President of the United States has the power for debt forgiveness.
Nope.
He does not. He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power. That has to be an act of Congress.
And that is exactly correct. Anything, and Matt, some of the ones over on Rumble are saying hi. But anything that has to deal with money, whether it's budgets, whether it's debt forgiveness, any of that has to be run through Congress because of the fact that Congress is the one that holds the purse strings. They're the ones that deal with all of this. They're the ones that are in charge. Biden cannot do anything without Congress's approval when it comes to money being appropriated or not appropriated. Now, he can choose, in some cases, how that money gets spent. He can change things once he's been authorized to have a certain amount for something. He can modify how it's spent here and there, as long as it's within the rules of the law that was written, or the statute that was written to appropriate that money, like he does with the military. But he can't just forgive these loans, not according to the Constitution. So once again, our buddy Joe Biden has decided to overstep his bounds. Now, there was an article that I read here not too long ago that basically said that Biden has been shut down by the courts more often than just about anybody else, that's out there. But I just can't. I can't understand where these people get this idea that they can just overstep like this and not get called on it. Now, I do admit that the press is doing a very poor job of calling these people out on this stuff. But, you would think that the press would do something and talk about it and ask the right questions, but they're sycophants for the left and especially for this administration. And they love all of this. And so, of course, they're not going to call him out on stuff like this. But I would certainly hope that somebody somewhere, especially put together maybe a class action lawsuit for all of those people who don't qualify to have these things or have already paid off their loans on their own for stuff like this, and basically call him out for it and do it under the guise that the Constitution basically states that he doesn't have the authority to do it. And I certainly hope that they would use that Nancy Pelosi clip. She goes on to say a bunch of other things, but of course we know, Nancy's been drinking, kind of like me. I hope that somebody somewhere calls him out on this. I mean, everybody, all of the ones that don't really understand how the government works, they're all freaking happy right now because they think, oh yeah, he's gone ahead and done this. Well, he can't. He literally cannot do this. He says that he can, but I'm hoping and praying that somebody somewhere can actually bring him back into the courts and basically say, yeah, you can't do this. All right. So now it's your favorite time of the show. It is time for...
Please check your mailbox. A new message has arrived.
It is time for the pet of the week. And I just realized that I don't have that one set up. But the pet of the week this week is, and unfortunately, I don't think I've seen her in the chat, but this is a submittal by Daybreak 3. And let me go ahead and give me just a second. I think I've drank too much or not enough because I messed up and didn't bring this up. One or the other. Anyway, this is Socks. And the reason why Socks is so far away is for two reasons. One, apparently Socks is very shy. And two, apparently this was a bit of a cold day for Socks. And so Socks decided to get warm by the dryer outlet. Now, I know a few people, talk about, oh, cats, cats are kind of crazy, blah, 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 etc. But, they are nuts, but they're also fun to be around. I mean, there's been some health studies that show that owning a pet, regardless of whether it is a cat or a dog, can help lower blood pressure. So for all of us who have animals, we are all doing it for our health. And this is Socks. Now, I also have it on good authority that there is another, I'm guessing, cat by the name of Sassy, who has adopted the Daybreak 3 family. Because we know that cats have staff. Dogs have owners. Cats have staff. But the thing about it is, though, is that Socks and Sassy are apparently camera shy, just like my boy Angus is. He does not like his picture taken, even though, I mean, every time I've taken a picture of him, his ears are always low and he's always kind of look at me like, oh man, do I have to? But anyway, so this is Socks, a little far away, warming up by the dryer vent in a cold day. So thank you very much, Daybreak 3, for sharing. If you would like to have your pet featured on Pet of the Week, I do have one in the queue right now for next week. But if you would like to have a photo of your pet brought up on the program, do me a favor, send me an email to fans. That's Frank Alpha November Sierra, Foxtrot Alpha November Sierra. I do that every single week. At whiskeymusings.online. Once again, that's fans, Foxtrot Alpha November Sierra at Whiskey Musings, all lowercase, all one word, .online. And you can send me a photo, name, pertinent information such as breed, if known, any of those kinds of things, and I will put them in the queue for the Pet of the Week. We have kind of a funny one next week, I can tell you that much. So you're going to want to come back next Wednesday for the Pet of the Week. For next Wednesday, because it's a bit of a funny one, maybe even a bit scary too. I don't know. It could be either one. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about privacy and our, okay, wait a minute. Sorry. Can I repeat? I'm assuming you're talking about repeat pets. If you have a picture of a pet that you've submitted before, but you have a different picture where they're in a costume and they weren't in that same costume before, then yeah, I don't have a problem with that. We can bring that up. Because of course we'd like to see cute pics of pets in costume in particular, but if you can't get them in costume, that's fine too. Whatever works. I think I'm okay. I'm okay with that. All right, so we spend a lot of time on digital media. This is digital media right here. Obviously I've been passing out my social media right here, so I have a lot of social media presence. I have this as a presence. A lot of these things that we do online and some of the things that we talk about online is susceptible to being taken. I mean, once it's out on the internet, it is out there forever. So you have to be very cognizant of what you are doing. Well, it's becoming even worse when it comes to things like, Twitter or Facebook. I mean, I know of a couple that posted that they were leaving on vacation because they thought it was kind of cool. But they inadvertently let people know that they were going to be out of town, and so they ended up having their house broken into. These are things that we are all aware of. We all need to take care of. You also have passwords. You should be rotating your passwords a lot. You should make them difficult, because if they're difficult for you to remember, they're going to be difficult for somebody to be able to figure it out or crack. There's all kinds of stuff out on the internet that talks about this. And one of the things that's been going on here recently has to deal with Twitter in particular. Now, we all know that Elon Musk put out an offer on Twitter, and that offer was essentially basically saying, hey, I want to buy it for, $44 billion, whatever it was current evaluation was at. But then those talks kind of broke down because of a conversation and a discrepancy between how many actual users were on there versus how many bots or automated response programs were on the platform. Well, take a look at this, because this came out. So lawmakers are now going to be investigating a whistleblower's claims that Twitter is not all that secure and has more bots than it has actual users. This could be a huge, huge effect on whether or not Elon has to pay for backing out of the deal, or whether the Twitter board has to pay. And so apparently there was a person who went to Senator Dick Durbin, and he said in a statement that he is looking into Zatko's, who is Zatko is the Peter Zatko is the whistleblower who served as Twitter's head of security for around 14 months before being fired earlier this year. And that was alleged in a disclosure obtained by the Epoch Times about Twitter's security and privacy systems being grossly inadequate, and that the company misled regulators, investors, and Elon Musk about the fake spam bots on the platform. Now, the Twitter CEO calls Zatko's claims a false narrative, but Senator Dick Durbin who's the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, said that he is looking into the allegations. Now, this is really important, because we all know that Facebook, when it went in front of Congress here a couple of years ago, we all know that things like TikTok, for an example, are owned by China. Musk himself, called out Twitter and has been talking about Twitter on Twitter, by the way. But then you had the whole thing with Parler getting shut down. I mean, big tech as a monopoly has got a lot of data flowing through them. And this is something that we need to be very careful of and very cognizant of. Not only that, but you also have companies like Google. Google has got tracking analytics within the phone. And what it's reportedly used for is to help with things like traffic, the Waze maps or the maps, when you call in for directions and it tells you that there's like a speed trap ahead, or there's an accident ahead, or construction ahead, that kind of thing. All of that comes from data that's being collected and thrown into a big data miner and analyzed by computers in order to figure out traffic flows, traffic times, things like that. And so, every single electronic item that we have, whether it's a computer, a phone, a tablet, they are all collecting data on you. And so this came out the other day with regards to iPhone users, and iPhone users are being warned by the federal agency to change some settings immediately. And this was in the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency says users and admins should update their software as soon as possible. So I don't know if you folks understand, really. I work in the tech field normally, so I have a grasp of what is happening here. But basically, when a code gets put out, it may not have all been completely vetted for all the bugs and possible security holes within that code. They put it out there, and they went ahead and they go ahead and they put it out there because good enough is good enough, and they drop it onto the network. They push it to everybody because, of course, when you have a phone that's tied to a specific carrier or a specific type of phone, whether it's a Samsung phone or whether it's a iPhone or whether it's something else, they all have operating systems that are consistently updating and patching security holes. And so this one in particular is talking about a security update because of the fact that the iPhone itself and apps that are in there could also go through and change things within your phone itself or track other pieces of information. I mean, we've all experienced, and I talked about this on the privacy episode, but we've all experienced where you do a Google search or you do a search on your phone for a product, let's say a light bulb, and you go through and then you hop over onto Facebook, and then next thing you know, all of a sudden you're seeing a whole bunch of Facebook ads for light bulbs, and you're trying to figure out, well, wait a minute, how in the hell did this get into that? And it's because of the fact that they use things like cookies. They track where you go. They access certain repositories on the phone or on the computer to try and see where you are, which is part of the reason why sources like Brave and, used to be DuckDuckGo was very, very popular. But you have Brave, and you have VPNs, you have all these other software programs that are designed to privatize and anonymize your data. And so, stuff like this comes out, and you look at this and you're like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Well, the reason why I brought this picture up is because of the fact that this organization that you see up in this upper corner here where my cursor is, and I'll help you by flashing the orange. So this organization right here is an Israeli organization known as the NSO Group. The NSO Group created a spyware called Pegasus. Now, it used to be that that Pegasus or that spywares, they would come to you in like a text or an email, and you would have to click on a link in order to get it installed. But not Pegasus. And Pegasus itself is a very nasty spyware. All they have to do, you don't have to click on anything. All they have to do is send you the text or the email. Once it infects your phone, it can turn on your speaker, it can turn on your camera, it can watch and screen share your screen. It can do all of these things. And it's not just for iPhones, it's also for Androids as well. I'm not trying to scare you. I am definitely not. But you do need to be cognizant of things that you do and say and mess with on your phone and everything else. So what I did here in the description is I put in one of my favorite podcasts specifically on this NSO Group. This is called Darknet Diaries. And Darknet Diaries it's cut off. Wait, I know what I can do. Hold on. So this is Darknet Diaries. And Darknet Diaries is a podcast. You can get it on Spotify, iHeartRadio, whatever. And this gentleman is a security researcher. And he goes around and grabs episodes and very interesting conversations with people who are hackers, penetration testers, etc., etc. But I would suggest that you listen to this podcast, the NSO, if you have any interest in the Pegasus spyware. This is an incredible episode, and it will open up your eyes as to what other organizations outside of the U.S. who supposedly, and I put that in air quotes, supposedly don't do because of our Constitution. Because if you watch Dan Bongino's podcast today, the Constitution is just a piece of paper if nobody bothers to abide by the rules that are within it. And we've seen that already in multiple cases with the FBI, the CIA, the Biden administration, even with Congress. We've seen it. We've even seen it with the judicial branch as well. The Supreme Court has overstepped its bounds with things like Roe v. Wade. So I wanted to bring this to your attention. I do have links within the show notes. You can go and check them out and get those links. Now, so Buddy actually asked this question. Does Pegasus travel on internet or cell signal? It does. It's basically any connection that is done. I mean, literally, if you were targeted with this Pegasus program and somebody delivered it to you, you wouldn't even know that you got infected, honestly. And it could just be sent right to your phone over any connection whatsoever. I mean, if you're trying to avoid Pegasus, the best thing to do is to not have a phone at all. There's no way to avoid it. If they decide to contact you or put this on your phone, they can do it. I mean, they will. So, which is part of what this NSO, this episode kind of outlines and talks about. And just in case you're also curious, Wikipedia, I don't usually go to Wikipedia because Wikipedia is put together by a bunch of people, but Wikipedia has a couple of informational articles in particular with what's called the zero click exploit. That's what they call Pegasus. And it's just, this is nasty. Very, very nasty. And that NSO, you should listen to it. It's a little more than an hour, but you should listen to it and you'll be amazed at what's going on. We also have TikTok has raised its freaking head yet again, which if you're using TikTok, if your kids are using TikTok, just understand the Chinese, the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party is collecting all sorts of data on you, including a report that came out that TikTok is actually able to, or has been demonstrated to be able to grab keystrokes in other applications as well. That thing, if you have it, if your kids have it, you need to get away with it. You need to throw it away. You need to get rid of it completely. But TikTok is unveiling a new election center that is apparently going to be detailed voter profiles in the hands of the company, which is based in Beijing. And so if you see an ad for this thing, again, it's called the Elections Center. Just avoid it. Don't even put it on your phone. Don't download it. Recommend to everybody else that they don't download it. It's being shown to be a problem. Just like Huawei, I talked about Huawei being a problem near our bases, and the telecommunications company from China being close to our bases and possibly messing up our nuclear facilities. This is another one that's going to be a huge problem. I mean, seriously, they allowed TikTok here. I don't get it. I mean, it's obviously they don't. The government is very, very behind when it comes to matters of the internet itself and being able to determine stuff like this. So get rid of TikTok if you have it. I know it's fun to watch those videos, but believe me, they are gathering all kinds of information off of those videos for everybody putting in here. But anyway. All right. Looks like I'm coming up to my hour. Thank you very much for joining. I do appreciate it. Do me a favor, if you haven't already subscribed to the program, do me a favor and stop by Rumble, get an account, subscribe to the program. You can also do it on YouTube. I do have a YouTube account. I stream there. And you can follow me on Facebook and all of my other social media that's been popping up here. If you have a question for me on Saturday, I do have one queued up. I actually think I might have two in the queue, but if you have a question for Whiskey for Saturday's show, go ahead and send that to fans@whiskeymusings.online, just like you would with the Pet of the Week. Remember, for Pet of the Week, I think I've got next week's taken care of, but I don't have anything else in the queue past that. So do me a favor, send me your pet pics. And the last thing is if you don't want to send me an email or you have something that cannot be broken up into the bits and bytes of the internet, like something physical, and you need to send it snail mail, you can send it to me. I have a P.O. box now. Send it to Whiskey Musings, specifically put it to Whiskey Musings, P.O. Box 1695, Stanwood, Washington, 98282. That's Whiskey Musings, P.O. Box 1695, Stanwood, Stanwood, Washington, 98292. And that'll get it to me. Okay. That also is in the show notes if you want to go and take a look down there. If you just, you don't have to write it down right now. It is in the show notes in the description of the video. All right. So, I'm seeing some questions about the Ho Ho Hold'em tournament. So here's the thing. I've talked about this on the program before. I'm an avid listener of the Mark K show, which is based out of Jacksonville, Florida. The Ho Ho Hold'em tournament is his singular event that he does. That's a charity Texas Hold'em poker event that he holds in the first part of December. This year, it's supposed to be on December 1st. It's a Thursday night. And basically what he does, he brings in a bunch of celebrities. You all do a buy-in. And then whatever proceeds are made off of the night for donations and things like that goes to his K's Kids charity. All right. So the K's Kids charity does kids that are, shall we say, have gone through medical procedures. And he does 2 events where he hands out toys or special items to these K's Kids. The first one is actually in December, known as the 12 Days of Christmas. And then he has Christmas in July, which he just completed this last July. You can go back and take a look at his programs, but it's an awesome charity. He does it through in conjunction with Dreams Come True. You can go to kayskids.com. That's KAEYSKIDS.com. And he can, you can get the information there. You can also donate. You can donate throughout the year. That's something that I don't think he pushes enough. You can donate throughout the year to K's Kids if you want on that donation page. But there is a rumor that I might be taking a trip to this year's Ho Ho Hold'em tournament. It is on 12/1. I am looking at getting some information and getting some things set up outside of what I've already told you. And so once I get more information and get everything a little more finalized, then I'll let everybody know. Might be another 30 days for sure. If not a little bit longer, but to get everything kind of lined up. The tournament is one night. It's a Thursday night. And, so I will probably be looking at making a trip and being in the Jacksonville area midweek, going to the Hold'em tournament and then coming back to my home base, over the weekend. But things are still kind of working out, so don't get too excited. I'm just trying to get things sort of set up. But that's the information that I have about the Ho Ho Hold'em tournament. That is hard to say. Anyway, and I also have an understanding that I believe Jay Money's birthday is on the 4th. So that could be interesting. I may have to stay there long enough to have him or to visit him over his birthday, or maybe I won't. I don't know. I don't necessarily want to interrupt him with his family, but anyway, so yeah. So if you want to check anything out about that, you can check it out, and we will definitely, I'll let everybody know once things start settling in. We'll kind of see what happens. But that's the thing. So anyway, that's all I have. That's my final Whiskey Musings thought for the evening. Thank you very much for joining. I do appreciate all of my subscribers. And this just came in just real quick. Yes, it has a bar, as far as I understand. So anyway, okay. If I send you a donation, can you mark it for a bet at the Hold'em? I actually thought about that, honestly. I actually thought about that, Outlaw Dogs, and I'm going to get some more details on that. Just hang on to that idea, because I kind of thought about that while I was putting things together and that kind of stuff. But anyway. Okay, so thank you all for coming. Please do me a favor. Please subscribe. Follow my all of my social media and everything else. We'll see you next time, which is this Saturday, on the Whiskey Musings broadcast. Good night, everybody.